welcome to this short tutorial on IDMapper. IDMapper is my newest add-on and it is available on Blender Market. In this tutorial I will show you a complete workflow from assigning specific colors in the Vertex color layer with the use of IDMapper all the way to applying materials in Substance Painter while using this IDMap. So we start with a mesh. A pretty simple mesh because I'm not a modeler. It's also quite a low poly mesh, and our challenge today is to assign different colors to different regions of this mesh. For this we will use IDMapper, and just like any Blender add-on, you must make sure it is enabled once you have installed it. You will find the add-on in the Paint section. Once you have enabled it, you can use it in Vertex Paint Mode, where you will find it in the Paint menu. The first thing you will see is that it will assign colors to regions of the mesh that are similar, and you can control what is considered similar by tweaking several controls. The controls are located in the toolbar on the left side of the 3D view, and one of the options you have here is the Similarity slider, and if you change, or in this case reduce the similarity, more faces will be assigned to the same region. In this case, it will have the effect of assigning a unique color to each chain link and to each individual stud on the edge of this ball. This is already quite a good start, but just to make sure that all the studs have been assigned a color that is different from the rest of the mesh, we will change the seed option because it's difficult to see if they actually have been assigned a different color. But if we change the seed, you will see that the studs are indeed assigned a different color. So now we have a mesh with a unique color for different regions of the mesh. The next step is to tweak these assignments because we are not completely satisfied with the result yet. For instance, we want to have all the links of the chain in the same color, because after all, we want to assign the same material to all these links later on, something that you can do if you check the Match option. Then all regions that have been assigned a different color but have the same geometry, that is, the same number of faces that are facing in the same direction, will be assigned the same color. So in this case, all links will be colored green. The same goes for the studs. They all have the same geometry as well. Now for some reason we have received the same color for the ledge as for the studs. That is something that we will correct in a moment when we use IDMapper's Facepaint Mode. Also, the top half of the ball and the bottom half of the ball have a different color, but we would like to give it the same color. Probably these parts of the mesh are assigned a different color because the top half has this ring attached, so it doesn't have the same geometry. Now we can go to the Facepaint mode using the P key, and that will change the cursor into this fancy ring with brackets, and this will allow you to manipulate the color regions. You can sample the color in a region by using the S key. It will show an eyedropper, and then the brush color will become the color of the selected region. It doesn't take into account any shading, so it actually samples the real face color of one of the faces in this region. It doesn't matter that the faces might show some shading. Now if you put the cursor on another colored region and press K, then the brush color will be assigned to all the faces in this colored region, as we will do here. Likewise, you can use this approach to make the color of the top half of the ball and the bottom half of the ball the same. So we select the color of the top half by pressing S, and then color the bottom half by applying the K key. What we also want to do is assign a different color to these two links, because now they are the same color as the studs and we would like to give them a different color. So what we do is we leave Facepaint Mode by clicking the right mouse button or the Escape key and then select a different color for the brush, something that we choose ourselves. Here we take a light brownish color. Then we go to Facepaint Mode again by pressing P and then use K to color the upper ledge and do the same for the lower ledge. So that's pretty much the way we want to look it, and we could actually export the model now and start in Substance Painter. But what we want to do first is transfer this Vertex paint layer to a high-res or high-poly version of this model. Indeed, we have one prepared. This high poly model simply has the subsurface modifier applied. After all, this is just a demonstration, but it does have a lot more faces now. And I will show you how you can use an option of IDMapper to transfer vertex colors from a low poly model to a high poly model, simply by going to the Vertex Paint Mode and then selecting from the Paint menu the Vertex Color Copy option. This will show a drop-down where you can select the mesh. Here we have two meshes and we select this low poly mesh from the drop-down. Its vertex color layer will be copied over to the high poly mesh as well as possible. And as you can see here, it does do quite a good job, but there are some details that might be improved. For instance, the edges of the studs are a little bit irregular. There are these little protrusions that you don't want to be here. And that is something that we can correct in Facepaint Mode again. So if we go to Facepaint Mode by pressing P, then you see in the lower boundary of the screen that there is this little help message that gives you some hints. And one of the options that you have is smoothing. Move the mouse over a colored area and press W. That's what we do with the yellow area. We would also like to make the areas of the studs a little bit tighter. They are a little bit too wide for our taste, so we want to adjust these. One of the options we have in Facepaint Mode is to either increase or decrease the area that a colored region takes. If we press numpad plus, you see the yellow area is expanded, but not just into the regions of the studs, but also over the edge. We want to restrict this expansion to just the color of the studs, and the way to do this is to sample this blue color by moving the mouse over to the blue area of the studs and pressing S to sample the color, and then press Alt Notepad Plus to restrict the expansion to just this blue color. So in this case the yellow color of the band only expands into the areas of the studs because we used the Alt key. So now we have a face color assignment that can be used as an ID map. All that we have left to do is export this model object to our file system so that we can use it in Substance. And we use the FBX exporter for this. FBX is commonly used when transferring game assets, or any assets really, between Blender and Substance Painter, because it also bundles the vertex colors. Make sure you check selected objects only. Previous runs of this tutorial already made some exports, so we use ball and chain 3 FBX in this example and then export it. The next step is to actually use our exported model and the associated vertex color layer to assign materials and create textures inside Substance Painter. In Substance Painter we will open and create a new project. Import our mesh by simply selecting the PBR Metal Rough workflow and select the FBX exported mesh from a list of objects we have in this folder. We use OpenGL for the normals, but of course that depends on your requirements. It is not relevant to the tutorial at this point, and if we click OK, the model will be imported. Then the next step is to actually bake the textures that are the initial versions used by our materials. Now this is about ID mapping, and as you will see when you select an ID map, the default that is set in Substance is to use vertex colors for this purpose. So we don't have to do anything special. You can just click Bake Textures and all the relevant maps, including an ID map, will be created for us. This will take a couple of seconds, of course, depending on the power of your machine and the resolution of your mesh. But as soon as it's done, each map that has been created will show up in this list, including our ID map. Now that this ID map is available to us, it is very simple to assign different substances to different parts of the mesh. So if we take this weathered brass or bronze and put it into the substance stack, then of course the whole mesh will be colored using this material. The next step is to add a color selection mask. And if we add this mask, we can pick a color from anywhere in our ID map, and we will limit the application of the material. So now the ball is the weathered brass material, but we also want to assign it to the ring and to the ledge and to the area between the studs. So we pick these colors as well. We have our brass material applied to the relevant regions. The next step is to apply another substance to just the studs. So here we use a sort of bronze and select simply the color from the studs, and now this material is limited to just these studs. We can repeat this for the chain links and the handle. Our final step is repeating these steps for the wooden handle as well. We take a polished wood material, add a color selection mask, pick the colors that we want to use for the handle, and there you have it. Quick and easy application to selected areas of the mesh by using an ID map. I hope you have learned something about IDMapper. Thank you for watching and see you next time.